Let's jump right in here. Last time we spent some time creating wallet activity on the Polygon testnet. We were able to create a wallet, public address, and a private key. This week, this day, I don't even know if it's been a week yet, but today we're gonna actually leave the Polygon section here and go down to smart contracts and do an NFT contract deploy to the Polygon testnet. So there's a few things we need to have in place to make this happen. We're now getting into the API calls against the Polygon testnet that require some Matic tokens in our accounts. I'm going to show you how to do that. And then we're going to go ahead and build out the deploy NFT smart contract. And we're going to do that. I wonder if I can show this real quick. The body of this by default comes into Ethereum, but if you just type a capital M, it'll give you the option of Matic, which is what we're going to be working with. So go ahead and while we're just sitting here, go to the deploy an NFT smart contract, go into the body section here, and then go ahead and switch ETH to Matic. And I think we're good after that. We'll come in and change the private key later, but I just wanted to get us started off on the right foot so that we're looking at the right stuff here. Okay, so I'm going to go back to Xano. I'm sitting in the workspace of Web3 that I was working with before. And you can see some of my test information is here that we did from the last couple of videos. So I'm going to go ahead and show you for the public address I already have that we built last time. Just going to copy and paste that into Polygon scan, but very specifically Mumbai, which is the test net. So you want to make sure you're not in the mainnet Polygon scan. And you can see that one by the little red pill here that says Mumbai, and then that is mumbai.polygonscan.com. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in the address, the public address that we got from Xano. And you'll see that I have 0.2 Matic in here already. Normally that'll start off with 0 Matic. That's where yours will be. And so what you do is you use Polygon Faucet. A faucet just allows you to put tokens into a public address in a test net. So you'll see that this is faucet.polygon.technology. There's others out there as well. This just happened to be the one that popped up first for me. And I'm going to put the public address in there. And you'll see that when I do that, I get this confirmation screen. And then it'll say the request is submitted. If you do it again, what you're going to see is the transfer failed. It's not letting you, and I've been gray listed for a number of seconds. It's not going to let you just keep pumping in a whole bunch of Matic into the test net. They try to meter how much you need, and 0.2 will get you through a number of transactions. So this faucet limits you, not in a bad way, but it does. And you'll see that I have my 0.2, 0.4 now, because I had 0.2 and now I have another 0.2. So we're good to go in this account. Let me make sure, and I'm using wallet ID 1 for that. That'll become relevant as we move forward with this. But what I'm going to do is go back to Tatum.io, back to the deploy, and we're going to go ahead. I don't think I used the US West one last time. It doesn't really matter. APIs were working. We're going to go ahead and copy the curl command as we always do. And I'd mention here that this is their default private key. We're going to have to change it to ours. But everything else here should be the structure that we want. I'm going to go back over to Xano. I've got 2 tabs open for Xano so that I can kind of track my data in the wallet. And I'm going to come back in here and add a function. And this one will be Tatum NFT deploy. So that'll be for, I'll put a comment in here, deploying an NFT contract, Polygon blockchain. That should remind me. And then let's go ahead and just add in an external API request, do our normal import curl. Okay, make sure there's no special characters. I know in one of my prior videos, we had some issues with the special characters being encoded, but we're good to go on this one. You'll see that it automatically set up the parameters. So the chain is Matic. The name for this one is going to be an ERC721. This is just a random name. You should be able to change this to anything. And then the private key we're going to need to change. And I think we learned that we didn't need the API key in one of my videos. I tend to end up using it, so let's just go ahead. Do the sprint app to take care of that while we're thinking about it. And then I already have, if I add the additional argument in my environment, I already have the Tatum API key specified. Let's go ahead and save that. And as always, I've forgotten to change my output, which is NFT Contract deployed. Okay. And that's what we'll show, and that'll give us a, right in front of me there, that'll give us access to that transaction ID. And I've also been adding, or getting, I'll say, I could do it either way, but we're going to get what is a response dot request. That should give me just the transaction ID that comes back from the API. Okay, now to fill in the private key, I'm going to go ahead and add in a database request into our wallet so that I can get that information. And I'm going to go ahead and move this up before I forget and change the output to wallet item. And then we are going to specify the ID. Of course, I have nothing to grab yet for an ID because I need to add the input, which will be an integer. Nope. We do this a little more cleanly. We're going to add an input, and it will be a table reference so that we've got this specified correctly. And it's wallet ID. Okay, so now I'll have the data I need for this, which is input of wallet ID. And then I want to come into the API. We're going to go down to the private key section. And instead of their default one, we are going to pick wallet ID. And we're going to add a filter of get. We're going to get response. Nope, this is from, silly me. This will just be private key because that's what's in our database for a column name. Let me make sure I have that right because I was kind of bobbling around there. So it'll be the from private key. It'll be input of wallet. That's where I messed up. It's not the input of wallet ID. It is the variable of wallet item. And from wallet item, we're going to get the column of private key. I'll have a lot more success with that, I think. Then we've got the API key specified. I think this will get us there. And then you know what I need to do is we're also, before we run this, I'm going to come over and create a new database table because I want to be able to track the blockchain transactions I do. Chain transaction. We don't want the CRUD API endpoints. Let's build out a little bit of a table here such that when I deploy a contract or mint an NFT, I can track that activity so that I have it just like we've done before. It helps with debugging, and it gives us a little quicker access into that information. So let's see. I know that I want a table reference because any transaction we do is going to be with one of our wallets. So I want to know which wallet I did that with. I also want to know a transaction type because I can deploy a contract, I can mint an NFT. There's multiple things that I can do. So this will just be a string that we specify in the function call. And then we always get back from the API calls transaction ID. And then for later, I'm going to throw some stuff in here. This one I'm trying to remember. We want a token ID. I think it may be text. Give me just a sec here. We're going to go check that out for sure to make sure I create the right version or type of that. I had paused there, which won't seem like a pause to you, I guess, but an integer or a token ID. The token ID is for any NFT that we mint to a specific contract. We have to give it a unique ID 0, 1, 2, 3, 580, whatever it may be, so that you can tell the difference in that contract for each of the NFTs that you've minted to that contract or with that contract. Let's see what else I have. A contract ID. So I want to know which NFT contract I used to publish something. And then in good fashion, I like to keep the raw JSON from each of these so that if something isn't working, it's a little easier for me to figure out why. Okay, where did I put that? I want this to go to the end. Okay, so we're going to be putting the results of our call into the chain transaction. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this page since I'm doing 2 tabs. If I change something, especially at a database table level in one tab, you want to refresh your other one so that it picks up those changes. Okay, and we'll add to the end database request. We're going to add a record to our chain transaction. And for now, let's see, change our output. Change item added. Okay. So at this point, we've gotten the wallet row from the table. We're going to use that in our NFT contract deployed call. And then we're going to add the result of NFT contract deployed into the table. And just to keep it simple, I think what I'll do is just plan on storing the JSON. NFT contract deployed. And then we're going to get, do we want the whole thing? Yeah, let's just keep the whole result of that one. And then I won't be filling in anything else for the moment. Isn't exactly true. I'll make it true here in a sec. We're going to go back into the API. I was going to create an input, but this function is specifically to deploy an NFT contract. So we're going to, in the add record, the database, the transaction type will be deploy NFT. So that'll get stored in the database so I know the type of transaction. I'll manually put the transaction ID in. I don't want to get too far down the path yet. We don't need the token ID on this one yet because we're not minting an NFT. We're deploying the contract for that. I'm trying to create a generic transaction table, so that gets included. And then I'll manually put in the contract ID as well once I have that. But all of that should be stored in the JSON if I'm doing this correctly. Okay. So we're going to have to specify the correct wallet ID. I'm going to come back over and make sure I know which one. This is point formatic, starting with a 3F19C. Let me just make sure that I'm looking at the right one. Back into my second tab. We are going to look at the wallet. But yeah, I'm using this one. We're going to go with ID 1. What are the chances that we pull off? Oh, it's a good start. Okay, so I got success. And we're going to go look at the debugger on this one. I'm guessing the get I have for the response for the NFT contract deployed was wrong, which is showing me no result. But I bet you if I come in here, look at the response result, there is a transaction ID. So whatever I did, we're going to go look at that over here. Did I not type in response.result? Ah, no, I didn't. Okay. Now, all that being said, it didn't show up as the response, but if I come back into my second tab and look at the chain transaction, how did I do here? It looks like I have transaction ID. And if I have that transaction ID, we can come over into our Mumbai scan and put transactions as well. And then this is what you actually see. So you know that it worked, because here's my transaction hash I just searched on. Happened just a minute ago from my account to this contract ID. I'm going to grab that contract. We can get that elsewhere, but you can see that how much it charged me. It was 0.08 Matic, and I had 0.4 Matic. So that gives you an idea of the cost, in essence, the gas fees. And then I'm going to go back since I've got the contract ID. I'm going to put it in here. Okay. And this should be 0. I've got the JSON. So at this point, I deployed an NFT. It's about that easy. Let's see. So let's come back here and look. All we had to do was specify the wallet, which we've got from the prior calls. I pull that information in. I call the API with this setup, which I got off my curl import. So I've got the chain that's Matic. Make sure you change that from ETH if you're doing if you forgot to change it over when we did it earlier. Make sure you change that to all uppercase Matic. The rest of the information isn't as relevant except for the private key that we pulled from the wallet table, which is right here. And then we specified our API key. And then that got us a deployed contract on the test net. I'm going to call that good for this one. On the next one, we are going to use this deployed contract and we are going to mint an NFT to that contract. So this is what brings everything together. This is where the call to Pinata earlier in the videos, where we put images out onto an IPFS network in Pinata, we're going to use that CID from that. When we mint the NFT, we're going to use this NFT contract, and we're going to also set up some metadata that is in a JSON file structure that will store out in Pinata on the IPFS network, because that'll be the information that is used by the marketplace to actually show some of the details of the NFT that you've minted. So there's a fair amount that's going to happen in the next video. I'll decide if it becomes 1 or 2, but within just a couple videos, you should be able to fully mint NFTs out onto your own marketplace. And once we get it minted here to the contract, that's what takes us into one of the last steps, unless we decide to build an app for this, which we might. Um, that will take us to deploying a marketplace and then showing all the minted NFTs for a contract in that marketplace. So fun stuff to come. If you've got any questions, leave them in the comments for this video. And I think we're good to go. I'll see you in the next one.